My name is Renise Medford, and as the communications consultant with the Marine Spatial Planning Project, it is my distinguished pleasure to welcome you here today to discuss a project which will undoubtedly impact the lives and livelihoods of many Barbadians. This is the first of several sensitization and engagement sessions which will be held over the lifeline of the project. Today's session aims to provide you with an update on where we are and also insights into the marine spatial planning process. Without further delay, I'm happy to invite Deputy Project Manager with the CCMU, Mrs. Alison Wiggins, to deliver the welcome remarks. Alison?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you here today as the first in a series of sessions to engage our key stakeholders as we undertake the Marine Spatial Planning Process, or MSP, in Barbados. Some of you may recall that the government of Barbados launched the island's Marine Spatial Planning Process in January this year, which is a key output of the Debt for Nature transaction, which was signed by the Nature Conservancy, the Inter-American Development Bank, and the government of Barbados. Since this launch, we have been working assiduously behind the scenes to develop our framework to begin the planning for the MSP. We have identified that a key element of the process will be continuous engagement with our stakeholders, as this is a process for, by, and of the people of Barbados. The MSP process will be inclusive, and we hope to develop a plan which will bring together the vision of a wide cross-section of the Barbadian public. As members of the media, we appreciate the need to provide you with the appropriate tools and knowledge which will equip you to cover the MSP process. We are counting on you as a key partner in this process, and we hope that this empowers you to communicate the necessity to responsibly manage our marine resources for the present and future generations of Barbados. After this session, please feel free to contact any of us if you require any additional information on the matters related to the MSP process. We stand ready to assist you as we recognize you as an important stakeholders. We look forward to working with all of you throughout this entire process. Once again, welcome.
Thank you very much, Alison, for those words of welcome and also to set the stage for what we're going to be discussing here today. Now, I want to take a few minutes to just recognize in the audience our MSP process team. We have Donna King Brathwaite, who is our marine education specialist. We have Jerome Wood, who is our GIS specialist. And also on the panel with me here, Dr. Leo Brewster, Director of the Coastal Zone Management Unit, and Mr. Richard Suku, who is a marine biologist with the Coastal Zone Management Unit. Now, as we continue in our proceedings this morning, as a tiny island, we have a very strong history of marine management. It's something that has been integrated within our framework and planning for a very long time. So it is my distinguished pleasure to offer the stage to Dr. Leo Brewster to give us the official remarks this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Renise. Colleagues in the media, representatives of the IDB, colleagues of the Ministry of Environment, officers of the CZMU, who I rely on heavily, the MSP process team, ladies and gentlemen. On the heels of the 40th anniversary celebrations of the establishment of the Coastal Zone Management Unit, it's a real pleasure for me, my staff, and our partners, yourselves included, to be embarking on yet another landmark development in Barbados' quest for resource efficiency and the enhancement of our marine resources and their conservation efforts. Thank you for joining us today for this media briefing, which serves as an update on the progress of the important national endeavors that we're about to embark on, the development of the Marine Spatial Plan for Barbados. Since the launch of this MSP process in 2022, the CZMU, government's executing agency in collaboration with our partners, including the IDB, with which we've also had a 40-year long-standing relationship, the Nature Conservancy, and a range of other government and non-governmental stakeholders, we've been working assiduously to meet the requirements for the successful formulation of a dedicated team and a program of work under this MSP process. In fact, we've submitted our first annual report in recent weeks, with clearly demonstrating our commitment to the latest mechanisms for the enhancement of and realization of Barbados' aspiration of a blue economy. A small island developing state, we have to have no choice but to embrace our nation and the notion of sustainable development via the green and blue economy pathways. Luckily, Barbados and Barbadians have always acknowledged and innately understood the immense value of our ocean space. However, the time has come for us to gain a greater knowledge of the resources therein, as well as a plan for the sustainable use of those said resources. This is not to say that we're not starting from scratch. Many of you are aware of the various management plans and systems already in place for many years, which include plans like the Fisheries Management Plan, marine pollution control legislation operationalized by the Environmental Protection Department, the Coastal Zone Management Policy and Plan, and various pieces of marine transport legislation and regulations, which are in existence and presently under development. And that's just to highlight a few. There are several sections of the blue economy which we are now trying to roll out with legislative input as well to ensure that we have a strong foundation for that economy sector to take off. That said, if we think of the MSP process as being akin to our terrestrial planning process and management systems, we may begin to see the importance of this process in relation to Barbados' sustainable development in coming years. As part of today's briefing, you will have the opportunity to hear more detail as to what represents the MSP in the Barbadian context. However, I wish to invite you, the members of the media, to join us throughout this process because you are a critical player as you represent the key stakeholders for communication with our national audiences. Via timely and accurate reporting, and above all else, the MSP process has to be a people-centered process. I therefore thank you for being here today, and as always, look forward to your support in our work and carrying the message to the citizens of Barbados. Let me reiterate that this briefing is, as Alison said, one of many that will be rolled out in the future, and we hope that we will continue to see your sustained support in this process. Thanks again for being here and for your continued participation and partnership in this national process.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brewster. Indeed, our efforts will only be successful if we are able to communicate beyond those with the technical expertise and reach those in their homes, in their living rooms, watching television, listening to the radio. This must be a people-centered process. And as we get into the meat of the matter, so to speak, I'd like to invite Richard to deliver our MSP 101 presentation, which will give you greater insight into the process that we expect to undertake over the next few years.
Thanks, Bernice, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So today, as would have been said, I'm going to be looking at the Marine Spatial Plan. I'm going to give you an idea of what it is that we're doing when we talk about marine spatial planning in Barbados. So I'm the marine biologist here at Coastal, and we're going to start from the basics, really. So you don't get more basic than this. This is a map of the Caribbean. I'm sure everybody in here knows. Cuba up to the top left and Barbados down to the right. Very familiar map. What might be a little less familiar is in the inset. That is an image of Barbados, and the line on the outside shows the territorial water, the exclusive economic zone of Barbados. To provide a little more information on what that means, because exclusive economic zone may be a term unfamiliar unfamiliar to most of you. But basically, under the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, the waters around a nation can be subdivided into different areas. We have the territorial waters which extend from the coastline out to 12 nautical miles, the exclusive economic zone, which goes from the coastline to 200 nautical miles, And yes, beyond the continental shelf, we have the areas beyond national jurisdiction. Now, the areas we're going to focus on today are within the exclusive economic zone. This include both the territorial waters and the EEZ. Now, within this area, Barbados would have the responsibility, would have sovereignty as well as responsibility to manage resources sustainably. Now, when it comes to sustainable management seeks to reduce environmental impacts, conserve resources, while facilitating growth and well-being. Now, in Barbados, I think Leo would have mentioned, we have a history of trying to achieve sustainable management. We have a variety of plans and policies. I have a couple images of some of them here. We have the Physical Development Plan, the Integrated Coastal Zone Management Plan. That's actually an older image. We did update it more recently. Tourism master plans, green economy scoping studies, legislation. This is the fisheries legislation I have here. And in the bottom left, that's the zoning for the Folkestone Marine Park. So the thinking is we have these experiences both on the terrestrial side and within the nearshore marine, and we will extend these experiences into the marine zone out to the 200 nautical mile limit. Now, before we go any further, I want to highlight the Folkestone Marine Reserve. Many people will know of Folkestone and think of the area by the NCC facility. That is only part of the reserve. The reserve is actually much longer. It extends across 2.1 kilometers of the coastline, up from the Bel-Airs area where we have the facility down to Sandy Lane Bay. I know a lot of people don't know that because it's not really well discussed, not discussed very often. But the area is divided into 4 different zones. We have the scientific zone, which is in that same area that I was talking about where the NC facility is. And in that area, we undertake scientific research, primarily the Bel-Airs Institute. It's limited in terms of boat access. And then we have the northern recreational water sports zone, as well as the southern, where we have motorized watercraft. This is your jet skis, well, not jet skis, this is your water skiing and that kind of thing that occurs in there. And then we also have the recreational zone. Within the recreational zone, that is the area with the wrecks. I don't know how many people have been in the water in that area. I hope all of you. But that's where you have the wrecks and the corals and so on. So that's where we have snorkeling. Now, as you can imagine, you don't want jet skis and water skiing occurring where you have snorkelers. So that's just one of the issues that we have when we have a shared marine space. You have to make sure to partition some of the activities. So Marine Spatial Plan, really, it allocates spatial and temporal distribution of human activities in marine areas. So think of what I just said in terms of the Folkestone Marine Reserve, and then blow it out to our entire marine area. That's kind of what we're doing, just on a much grander scale, incorporating a lot of other activities. So the vision for Barbados MSP is a resilient Barbados with optimally zoned and effectively managed ocean that supports a blue economy for social, economic, and ecological well-being. For those of you in the know, that would have included your social, economic, and ecological pillars of sustainable development. But as I said, as we talk about human activities, the first thing we have to discuss is what's going on there. So this image kind of just summarizes some of the activities we have within Barbados' marine area. If you look carefully, you can see the cruise ships as well as cargo and transport. You can see fishing, recreation, tourism, offshore oil and gas, possibly offshore wind, offshore mariculture. All of these are things that can take place within Barbados' marine space. Now, what I would have highlighted just now is not only ongoing, but potential activities that can happen, because this MSP is meant to be forward-looking. It's not just a map of what's going on. It's what we want Barbados' waters to achieve. So just as an example, I also included some of the similar initiatives undertaken in other Caribbean areas. I have here one for St. Kitts, as well as the Grenadines. You can see, as I was discussing, the marine areas are partitioned into, you have your fisheries zones, your tourism zones, your mariculture zones and transport zones and so on. So this is similar to what we're going to be looking at as part of the Barbados MSP. So some of the benefits of the MSP for Barbados, why are we actually doing this thing? So to start with, it supports national growth and the development of the blue economy. So the blue economy, as some of you may know, it seeks to develop ocean sectors, ocean-based sectors, but cognizant of the fact that the marine resources are not inexhaustible. Gone are the days when we thought that the sea was a source of resources that could not be exhausted, but as time has gone on, we've realized, okay, we can continue to damage the sea if we're not very careful with how we manage it. So the blue economy concept seeks to develop marine sectors sustainably, as I said. So the MSP is one tool for doing this. Another benefit would be the reduction of conflicts between incompatible uses. The most obvious one would be what I mentioned in terms of swimmers and high-speed watercraft. You can't have people diving within ports. A lot of these other things are really incompatible. So as we start to plot and understand what is going on and what we want to do within the marine space, we can start to reconcile these activities. Facilitate interministerial and interagency governance over the ocean. As many of you may know, the management of the oceans and marine space in Barbados, it's partitioned, it's siloed. We have fisheries departments, your coastal zone management units, your environmental protection departments, and so on and so forth, the port, etc. What this tool is supposed to be able to do is allow us to move forward with a shared vision. So everybody will know their roles and how they interact with the marine space, and we work together to achieve this vision. Incorporation of biodiversity objectives into planned decision-making, I put that down the list, but honestly, I'm a marine biologist, so that would have been top of mind for me. The marine resources, as I said, if we're not careful, we can very easily cause irreparable damage. So using these systems to incorporate them into decision-making is paramount. And finally, it considers the relevant multilateral environmental agreements, your United Nations on Conventional Law of the Sea, Cartagena Conventions and its protocols, and Sustainable Development Goals. So the actual process of developing the MSP, I think Alison would mention the debt conversion deal that was signed. It was detailed in the Debt Conversion Counter Guarantee Act of 2022. And as was outlined before, it's a partnership between Government Barbados, the Nature Conservancy, and the Inter-American Development Bank. So CZMU is the technical lead on this process, which is why I'm the one giving this presentation and not somebody else. But the timeline for the project, I should say that it's partitioned. We have 5 years to develop the Marine Spatial Plan, which started last year, and then 15 years to implement the MSP following the development of it. So the thinking is we make the plan, and then we execute the plan. So in terms of, again, developing the MSP for Barbados, we have a number of steps. There's the MSP preparation process, and then the implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. Today, we're talking about the preparation project, which is 5 years. So the processes of the pre-planning, this is where we assemble the resources that we need to use in order to develop the plan. Using your personnel and the money. And I know the ESF is in the room, so thank you very much. As well as, and following the pre-planning, then we move on to the analysis of existing conditions, the question of what is there, what is going on, the resources, the users, and so on. We've already started some of that process. We're going out and trying to understand what data is available and assembling information on who is using what exists. The next step would be the analysis of future conditions. So this is a process by which we scenario model. We get an idea of what it is that the stakeholders want for the future, and we develop models and through a validation process determine what the future for the marine space is going to be. And then beyond that, it's then the preparation and approval of the Marine Spatial Plan. Now, the Marine Spatial Plan, or realized Marine Spatial Plan, requires significant legal work and so on. So once we have the plan, we've done the technical bits and we have the plan, there is a process of drafting and having legislation approved and so on, and that's encompassed in that last bit. So project governance, as I said, CZMU is a technical lead. There is also a project steering committee that has oversight of everything that goes on in the project to make sure that we are going in the right direction. This project steering committee is a cabinet appointed body, and it's comprised of representatives from key agencies. This is like the coastal zone, your fisheries, your planning development department, Barbados Coast Guard, University of West Indies, as well as Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry. That's the I. Sorry, guys. And yes, so the PSC is also advised by the Stakeholder Advisory Committee. And this is composed of stakeholders representing relevant sectors: tourism, recreation, energy, fisheries, conservation, and academia. This is, again, recognizing the importance of this process to the wider society. We need to make sure that whatever the direction we're going in is in line with the wants and desires of the people. So we need to make sure we have a mechanism by which they can have input into the process. And the Stakeholder Advisory Committee is one of many avenues by which there will be expected input from the stakeholders. So finally, I think all the speakers previously have hammered home the importance of stakeholder involvement. I would have gone through the various steps before involved in an MSP, and stakeholder involvement is required throughout. At the start, for determining the vision of the project, we need people to tell us what it is that they want to achieve within the marine space. Understanding the mapping and existing conditions for each sector. This is where you go out and you ask the fishermen, where are you fishing? You ask the folks on the beach, where do you prefer to swim? You ask the energy sector, where is looking to be developed for the various sources of energy. For that, we need to go out to stakeholders as well. I would have mentioned developing and validating future scenarios. We can't sit down in our offices and just chart the path for the marine space by ourselves, so we need stakeholder involvement there, as well as feedback on the draft MSP. Once everything is semi-finalized, we will need to go back and have a validation from the stakeholders to just confirm that this is indeed the direction we want to take the MSP. And then in the final phase, when we start talking about implementation, because we have been in constant contact with our stakeholders, we hope that this will engender some level of buy-in for the implementation phase following the development of the MSP. And so this is why we are having this briefing today. This is why you're all here, because we need your assistance. When we go out to the stakeholders, we need you to understand what it is you're talking about. So when we bring information that needs to be digestible for the stakeholders, you guys can help us make it so, really.
Thank you, Richard, for that comprehensive and informative presentation on the process that we are undertaking. Members of the media and other specially invited guests, we would invite you to just make sure you stay tuned to the Coastal Zone Management Unit's website and their social media pages. We will be launching the pages for the Marine Spatial Plan very shortly. We just wanted to make sure that we came to you, our stakeholders in the media, before we went very public to make sure that you knew what we were going to be communicating. As Richard mentioned, there is a need for us to have this information in bite-sized pieces. Generally, technical persons tend to communicate at this level, and then sometimes it's very hard for average people to understand. But this is a very important process, and we want to make sure that the fantastic work that's going to go into it, reaches the homes of Barbadians in a way that they can understand. So we are counting on you as members of the media to help us in that process, and certainly we will look forward to engaging with you further, to invite you to future events. We will have future engagement sessions specifically for the media as well. We do understand that this needs to be a rolling process, and we will have for all of our stakeholders in the various sectors as well. So thank you very, very much for coming out today. And if you have any future questions, you can feel free to post to any of the members here. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Thank you.